Right, I've got a question for you. Obviously, JW, this is a joke and a real comment. You've been known to hide a few bugs and things that you knew inside the game and not tell everyone. So I actually wondered, did players know about this coaching bug? Had you heard about it? Like, the problem really is, by the way, there's like two different versions. Like, I'd heard about the one where it like does it for one round or whatever, but I also didn't really know like how. Like, I thought, are you just stuck in that spot or something? Do you see it for like? I thought maybe it was like the old ones in 1.6 modes where it didn't properly fade to black or something. So I thought, maybe it's just like the death cam. You get a little bit extra. Had you heard about it, JW?
I never heard about it until the bans came out. Actually, before that, I've never heard of like a coaching bug. I don't know if I hang out in the wrong circles or whatever, but I had no clue. And when I first heard about it, I was like you, that I thought it was like some bug that could happen, right? I mean, it's a game; bugs can happen after all.
Of course.
But then I read like, I don't remember who it was. It was some coach who made a statement, and he said something similar, like he noticed that if he was the first to join an ESL server and put coach in before any players joined, then he would be stuck in a spot. And like he learned.
I think it might have been I'm a Pet, maybe. I think he was one of the first ones I saw sort of publicly say something. Could have been him.
Yeah, I think it could have been Pete as well. Not sure.
Okay. Ironic.
But, but someone went out and told like how they triggered it, and that for me was like, if you actually know how to trigger it, then it should have been an easy fix, like contact Valve, right?
Exactly.
So, I think it's a bit bullshit.
I don't know. I'm so confused about the whole timeline of this whole bug, because I feel like we've seen multiple coaches come out and say that they brought it up back in like 2018, back in like 2017, and they've like reported it to ESL, and some of them reported it to Valve and sent them an email. And then there's now two bugs. There's the original one we knew of, and now there's a second one that's popped up. And I'm just so confused on how it all works. Like I don't live in that side of the scene, I guess, where like bugs are frequently discussed at this level, but I don't even know, like, is it, like, if it is true that we had coaches talk about this bug and report it to ESL and report it to Valve in 2018, like, that obviously doesn't, cleanse everyone of their responsibility if they abused it, but it is just kind of like, what the fuck? How did, like, two of the biggest players in the Counter-Strike esports not deal with this in an adequate fashion, in an adequate time frame? So it's just very strange.
Yeah, listen, by the way, I'm not saying this just because it's ESL. That's just convenient. But I would say, if you are a player or a coach who claims that you did tell, like, Valve or ESL or someone basically who was in a position where, like, I'm not saying they should have fixed it necessarily, like, if it's ESL, like, maybe they can't, maybe Valve has to do it, but they should obviously have run it up the chain and, like if you're the next major holder, put some pressure on them, tell them, like, look, there's a bug still, someone could cheat. Because I would just say this, if you are one of those people who did that, it doesn't have to be me, it could be DK, it could be Richard, whoever. Reach out to a journalist, and if you've got those emails, just show them. Because actually, by the way, I think that would be an interesting story right there. If someone could actually prove that it's true, like 2 years ago or something, someone contacted like Valve or whatever, and they just ignored the email. Because by the way, if someone's a naive fan out there, it's not just that Valve doesn't communicate much. I mean, I don't know if JW's ever done it, but I've known many of the old school pros who sent emails in about things like, oh, this is like overtuned or whatever. And you just never get a fucking response. Like, they just like leave, it's like leave those, the equivalent of like a message left on red, like they never reply.
Yeah, and if you would have gotten a reply, it's usually the standard like
generic shit,
thank you, but bye. Like they never seemed like they cared really when you spoke to them. So after like the first few majors, I think most players stopped trying because sure, when you were at the majors,
they always come and talk to you then.
Yeah, they came and talked to you, and like they seemed very
receptive, open to ideas.
Exactly. But then when you spoke to them and you see they go and do like a patch note that is totally reverse, and you were like, did they miss my point or yes, I don't know.
Have I got insane? What's happening?
Yeah, something like that. So I think after the first few majors, players just gave up, to be honest.
Because one of the reasons I brought this topic up, by the way, is, and my joke there was to tie into it, I actually wanted to put something to you, which is, listen, I know one of the approaches you've taken in your career, by the way, it's a very Swedish approach, it's like, whereas Thorin just doubles down and never admits he's wrong, key point, if I don't think I'm wrong, like, I'll never do it just because fans are angry at me or whatever, like, even though there were circumstances behind that whole thing with Nip back in the day where they said he elbowed them or whatever, like, and there was obviously a scenario with the all-off pass boost, like, it wasn't as clean and black and white as everyone thinks. I notice your approach generally is you just try and sort of, like, accept it, like, yeah, whatever, we made a mistake, like, sorry, guys, and let's just forget about it, let's not bring it up again. But actually, it made me think of the all-off pass boost, dude, because think about that. The thing that made all the fans treat you guys like scum, and that even other teams, top teams, were trying to imply was dirty, was the notion that when you found the boost, you were supposed to inform Valve and the other fucking teams about it. Which, first of all, looks really bad in the context of this if you're one of those coaches now and you knew that for 4 years there was a fucking bug. By that logic, they should get like an insane punishment if they knew it for 4 years and then kept using it. And then the other part is, the part fans always got wrong, and I know why. It's because if anyone remembers, because that shit took place over like a 14-hour time span of like when the game ended, all the delay overnight and the admins, and then it's not like it was one meeting, they were meeting with you and then with the fucking envious LDLC and then going back and forth. The story sort of came out in pieces, and it's like a newspaper story. If you only saw the first story, you only know some of the details. And for example, famously, a lot of fans to this day are like, they did a pixel walk, and it's like, no, that was the first story, but then we found out pixel walk wasn't illegal. So I always say this as well. People don't even know how to characterize the story because they always say, yeah, but the bug was illegal. I'll give you 2 details. I'll be quick with this. One, the part that was illegal wasn't even what they were using it for. The part that was illegal is you could see into those textures that are like not finished on the top of the map, basically, which technically you're not supposed to be able to see because on other maps that could maybe make you cheat, right? On Overpass, it didn't make you cheat. And you weren't even looking there anyway. Olaf Meister was looking at like the water area to kill them when they came out the fucking tunnel. So that didn't even make sense. And then secondly, this was the part that burned me because I always thought LDLC and people like Nip that didn't like Fnatic were dirty as fuck, where they were like, you should have told us about the boost. LDLC had their own boost that was a worse boost that they saved for that match, used in that match, and they let them see the fucking pixels. Like, that was the part that always killed me, dude. Because people always thought I was like a Fnatic fanboy because I said you guys were the best. But like, in that one, I actually legit think people just don't realise it wasn't some like super black and white story. So what do you think of this? Because like I say, for years, I'm sure you've had people bring that up of like, you should have told them about, oh, Fnatic manager here, delete it. Like, that was a big thing, right? That people used against you. So what do you think of this in light of the current situation?
I think it's a very complex situation. It was first, as you said, it was 2 things with the boost. First was the glitch that you said, but also there was something that they found that from like one spot at the map, I think it was balloons, you could see the player on the boost, but you couldn't kill him. So it was ruled under some immortality. But it was also the same with the LDLC boost. You couldn't kill them from that spot either, but you could see them. So that's why they decided to redo the match, because essentially both have used a boost that is cheats or whatever. So yeah, I think it's kind of bullshit that you should check with Valve, because I mean, it's the same with everything, right? I mean, the big guys at that major, sure, that's also the jump bug thing.
Yes, crack out.
Like, yeah, like, are they gonna check everything with Valve? Like, you're not gonna get response. Are you gonna check with your opponents? Like, that doesn't make sense either. Like, I don't know. It's a weird situation, but I think with the coaching thing, that to me is like, that is like pure cheat, right? Like that is wall hack. I think
the difference is like the boost that you guys found. That's like a strategy that nobody had caught on to yet. Like, that is just like a different boost. That falls to me very much within the realm of like, this is. I mean, it's no different than finding like a really cool smoke or a really cool flashbang that gives you such a huge advantage on a certain peak or a great way to defend a certain part of the map. So I mean, I never really thought that, you know, having to file that one with Valve made any sense. This one is like, there's a clean distinction in my mind that, you know, if there is a coach abusing this bug, because at the end of the day it is a bug, and I think there's got to be some leeway in that sense. But at this stage, if you are knowingly using that bug, if you are knowingly triggering it so that you can just stay in a map and be able to call information, that's when it turns into cheating. And I mean, that's part of, even by the way, that was part of my defense when all this came out, why I tweeted about Ricardo, about Dead, like having one round in one map. I was like, can we all not forget that this is a bug? Like, the way that whole release was framed was that like these guys were cheating. And I was like, you know what, this is a bug. Like, this shit does just get triggered accidentally. Talk to 50, it like happened to him 3 or 4 times in like a single scrim, a single practice game. You know, it's happened to, I think, Zeus a couple times in practice scrims. I've never seen it, but in my mind, it's like, it's a bug. And if someone's getting caught for one round,
dropping dime on every motherfucker.
Yeah, but it's, you know, once you start using it like 4 times in a game, that's when you're cheating it. But like the one time in one game. So I don't know. It's just a weird scenario, but certainly this bug crossed that line of cheating, especially now when you see that 35, I don't know, an estimated like 30 some coaches are using this bug. What the hell?
Because, by the way, the other thing as well, that's why I actually wanted to get your take on this as well, Moses, is that's like more of a modern day esports thing, the idea of like, oh my God, this boost is too good. Like, has anyone checked if you're allowed to do this? It's like, if people don't know, because Valve wasn't involved at all in that way in 1.6, like they just didn't even follow the terms. They had no idea. We just played with the game that they gave us, basically. Yeah. Like, there were a lot of illegal boosts, but they were mainly ones where, like, famously, like on Dust 2, if you boost up at like A, you can look over to the long, you can do a bunch of things like that. Like, listen, I get why those are broken, and even though at the time I would have said what I'd say now, which is like, well, if it's broken, then just fucking like fill in that area of the map, put an invisible boxer. But back then they were never going to do that, so I get that. But the reason I bring this up is I knew you'd have that angle, Moses, because back in the day that was just considered part of what you went into the empty servers to figure out. Let's figure out like a cool boost that no one's done, or a triple stack somewhere where they won't expect, even if it's just for one kill, one round. NA teams especially used to love all the gimmicks acts. It would give you a leg up on some European team which plays the map standard or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, and I mean, even just the different strategies of exploiting part of the game, like, you know, the old save strategies before the new money system came in, where you could actually wreck people's economy by saving weapons in a certain fashion on the T side. I think the big one that I tell as like a funny boomer story is I remember when people realized you could throw flashbangs over walls on maps. Like, we never used to throw flashbangs over the wall on B bomb site of Dust 2. Because no one thought it was like even like, you know, quote unquote legal or like okay to do. And even on Inferno at the B bomb site, when we started doing that, the rule was like, if it makes, remember there used to be like the water sound, like a flush entity packet got lost. It was like
that meant it flashed the whole skybox or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
And it was like, if it made that sound, then it's illegal. So don't fuck it up. But you can still throw them, but there's a chance you fuck it up. And then there were the flash bugs as well that people would start finding, where if you throw like a flashbang under the box in ramp room, it blinds above heaven, so you could set some person back in lobby. So I don't know, bugs have always been like part of the game. Obviously some of them get banned for good reason, but I mean, it was never, if you use a bug in the right way, I guess, or like, you know, if it's obviously not crossing some kind of moral line, then you could get away with it for one game, and then the conversation would begin, but you wouldn't get punished. It'd just be like, oh, you found a really fucking sick trick. Now, the problem becomes when you start having, you know, 50% of the coaches in pro and semi-pro play, like that obvious line of morality has really disintegrated over the years, you know? Like, I don't think anyone even back in the day would have really used... Well, maybe that's a bit naive. I don't want to say nobody, but I don't think we would have had half the scene using some kind of a bug that is essentially a wall hack.
I mean, as weird as it sounds, I think one of the reasons why, this might sound like a weird reason, because people normally go the other way to explain cheating. I actually think the fact that there wasn't as much money in the game, and it really was like a hobby that was for passion and stuff, is why not as many... some people would have used it, let's be real. Like, I mean, I can tell you right now, I know some like NS semi-pros that just use fucking aimbots or whatever. Like, so some of them were ridiculous, but I do actually think a lot of people wouldn't generally, whereas the problem now is like the temptation. Like, one of the things people don't seem to realise is that I'm glad no one's brought up about those bugs, is obviously, on LAN you can't do it because the coach isn't in a PC, he's just stood behind you. But that's the part where people miss. Sometimes the online game is more important, because without the online game in a qualifier, you aren't at the LAN. People always forget that. Like, JDubs has been through this. Like, it's one thing when you're in the top 8 teams in the world and you just get the invite to every event. Soon as you drop to like 11th or something, it's a nightmare getting through some of those qualifiers, right? Like, some of the teams that are going to knock you out of those, like, there might not even be teams that could ever beat you on LAN, but online they'll fucking get you.
Shout out to the dip guys. It feels like they haven't gotten out of that fucking hell since the E-League majors.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's insanely hard to get back into the circuit if you fall out, because everyone is so hungry, and maybe that is why some take the temptation as well. I don't know, but yeah, I also think something that bothers me a little bit is like the community overall is a bit naive and blue-eyed, I would say, when it comes to the coaches that actually is going out and saying like, I did this, I'm so sorry, blah blah, I want to make it right. But it's bullshit. It's only because they are caught already. Like, obviously someone behind the scene is telling them like, you're gonna go out and say this or it's gonna look worse. Right? And the
damage control, we call it.
Yeah, damage control. And the community is like, yeah, good, bravo to you for being honest.
I know.
And like, that's so bullshit. It bothers me so much.
No, that's one of the things that, listen, unfortunately you'll never get to certain fans. Like, there'll always be a type of fan, by the way, where like, say I say something about a player, like, well, actually he did this. The player will be like, no, I didn't. They'll be like, see, you lied. He didn't. It's like, I mean, like, guys, have you never seen that Ricky Gervais movie, The Invention of Lying? Like, are you aware that people can lie? And you know what? often do, especially if it benefits them. Like, how is this something people are learning as like an 18-year-old kid? Like, fucking hell.